Okay guys, first thing I want to talk about is different types of rigging. So there are two main types of rigging when you're talking about 2D animation. There's puppet rigging and there's symbol swapping. So the first thing I'll talk about is the puppet rig. So what I've got here on this layer is an arm. Okay, it doesn't look like an arm, but it's an arm, trust me. So if we had a hand, it'd be down there like that. But we don't have a hand. So this is what we have. So puppet rigging, basically you make an upper arm and a lower arm, and you probably make a hand as well. And you move these in unison with each other. So this part here, this is the lower arm here, and basically what you do is you rotate it around. Let's zoom in so we can see what we're doing here. You can rotate it like this, and as you can see, you're pretty limited to what you can actually do with this arm and the shapes you can make. Okay, as far as foreshortening and bringing the hand closer to the viewer, you can shrink this down like this, and it gives a little bit of foreshortening. But for the most part, this is what you're limited to, and it would be the same setup for the legs and what have you. And so you see, it's really easy to animate, you know, as far as actual animating goes. I can just move it where I want it, and that's that. However, it's very limiting as far as what you can actually do with the rig. Okay, it's going to look a lot more two-dimensional because it's moving on that plane and there's no foreshortening happening. Okay, and this is the exact reason that I believe this type of rigging to be not as practical as symbol swapping. Okay, and this rigging has been used before in production, and it will be used in the future. However, I don't think I need to do a tutorial on it for numerous reasons. First being, there are plenty online on YouTube and places like that, and the other reason is, I mean, it's so simple, you know, anybody can do it. It's not something you need a course on. What we're going to talk about through the course is symbol swapping. So symbol swapping allows us to create a lot more complex animations. So you can see these arms here. I'll just zoom in. So what we've got here is our rig that we're going to create over this course. His name's Fred. So we have one main symbol where we have all of Fred here, and if we click inside this symbol, you can see up here in the layers we have lots of different layers here. His heads, his arms, body, his legs. Okay. But if you see, if you come in here and we look at this arm here in particular. Now, it would have been very hard for us to create an arm like this with the puppet rig, because it looks like it goes back. Okay, it's not just bent straight. Where's my pen? It's not just bent straight out to the side like this. It's kind of, you know, it's got that three-dimensional arms going backwards kind of look to it. Now, the way this works is we have all these different symbols here, and this arm here, if I go inside this arm, so I double click inside it, you can see up here I have lots of different arm poses. Now you can see, especially something like this would be very, very hard to create with that puppet rig. And especially see, let's zoom in here. see this shape that we're getting here, where it gives a little bit of depth to the arm, so the arm doesn't look flat. So what we do as far as animating with this is we go across in the timeline. Let's add some keyframes in here. Just make sure we get everything. Okay. And we'd select this guy. We insert a keyframe here. And then we come over here to, while it's selected, we come over to the properties panel. And we change the looping to single frame, and we change the frame number. So if I click on maybe 4, you can see the arm changes. If I click on 1, the arm changes. And this gives us a lot of freedom, because as well as being able to swap the symbols out, we can also still rotate these, however we need to. So we still have the same rotation abilities that we had with the puppet rig, but as well as that, we can swap these symbols out to make it a lot more robust, and it brings a lot more life to your animation. So this is really a mix between traditional animation and digital animation, because we're using the symbol swapping technique to swap out our frames. What it means is we don't have to redraw our arms over and over. Once we have a library of arms, we can just reuse these over and over again. We never have to draw another arm in that position, or that position, or that position, or any of these positions. If ever there is a need in the animation process for us to have an arm in this position, it's already drawn, and we can just swap out the frame that we're on. Okay. Now this is pretty good, but it gets a lot more robust and easier to use when we use a tool called Keyframe Caddy. Now Keyframe Caddy is an extension for Flash created by an animation studio called Cloud Kid. So I'll grab my text tool here, black. So if you go to cloudkid.com, you can download Keyframe Caddy. And what that will do, if I go up here to Window, Extensions, Keyframe Caddy, and what you'll have is this window over here. So if I'm clicking here, and I click on this arm, and I click Load Thumbnails, you can see here I've got all my arms. So not only does it let me see which arm I'm selecting to put on the frame, it will also keyframe that layer for me. So I've got this arm selected, and I click on this arm, it'll put a keyframe on there. So again, look here, there's no keyframe, and I click on that one, and it puts a keyframe in there for me. Okay, and that makes the animation process a lot easier. And a lot faster. Okay, and again, it's the same thing with the head. So we go into the head here, and inside the head we have a bunch of different layers. Okay, and they consist of all our different head parts. And inside the eyes, for example, if I load all of these frames, so if I double click in here, you can see I have lots of different frames for my eyes. So if I load them all up in Keyframe Caddy here, you can see all my eyes here. And I can swap between these guys. Get some funky stuff going on. Okay, and I have a similar thing with my pupils. Let's see where we go here. Go back to this guy. So with my pupils, if I load these up, I've got a few different ones. And you can put as many as you want in there, obviously. And same with my eyebrows. Lots of different eyebrow shapes. And of course, with my mouth. And you can see how easy it would be to have this guy talking. Alright, so that's the basics of our rig setup and the difference between rigging a symbol swapping rig and rigging a puppet rig. And there's nothing wrong with puppet rig, I just think that it's a lot more robust to use a symbol swapping rig like this. So that's what we're going to go over throughout this course. Okay, so I'm quickly going to take you over some really basic Flash stuff, just so that I'm not going too fast for you through the tutorials. So, first thing that I want to talk about is the spacebar. If you hold down the spacebar, you see this little hand comes up, the cursor changes from an arrow to a hand, and that allows me to move the screen around. Okay, and I will do that a lot. Okay, so if you're wondering how I get this screen to move around, I'm just holding down the spacebar. Okay. The other thing I'm going to go through is just the timeline up here. So if I come up to the top here, to the timeline, and I click Insert Timeline, I can insert a frame, a keyframe, or a blank keyframe. Okay. So a blank keyframe has nothing on it. Okay, a blank frame will have the same as whatever's on the keyframe before it. So if I draw a picture, then scroll across, you can see that carries across to the next frame. However, if I put a blank keyframe in here, what that'll do, and you hit F7 to put that blank keyframe in there, you can see that removes the picture because that keyframe is blank, and therefore the frame after that will be blank as well. Okay. You can click on it, if it's highlighted, you can click and drag that keyframe in the timeline wherever you want it to be. If I go through here and put a keyframe on it, so not a blank keyframe, just a normal keyframe, which you do by F6, you can see that carries the picture across with us. Okay, which makes it a lot easier to edit the picture. Okay, so let's get rid of these guys. So the shortcuts that you want to remember are F5 to insert a frame. So okay, so to insert a frame, then F6 for a new keyframe, and F7 for a blank keyframe. Okay, so they're the most important shortcuts we're going to use for the timeline. Okay, as far as drawing tools go, oops, so let's just put that back up there. As far as drawing tools go, it's B for the brush tool. So B on the keyboard for the brush tool. N on the keyboard for the line tool. So if I hit N, you can see I get the line tool. And Y on the keyboard for the pencil tool. Okay, so they're the main keyboard shortcuts that I'm going to use throughout the whole thing. The only other one that I'll use are copy, paste, etc., which are the same for I think every program. So if I select this, and sorry, what I'm doing to select that, if I hit the V key on the keyboard, that'll switch me over to the selection tool over here, or you can just move over and select it. But if I select these guys, hit Control C, that will copy it, and Control V, that will paste it. Okay? If I hit Control X, that will cut it to the clipboard, so I can still paste it now. And if I hit Control Shift V, that'll paste it in place. So I can select this, Control Shift V, and it'll paste it in place like that. So if I erase some of this, Control Shift V will put it over the top of it. However, if I just hit Control V, that'll put it into the center of the screen. Okay? Simple. So spacebar is the main one, and then the F5, F6, and F7. Okay? Alright, so I think that's pretty much all we need as far as navigating around Flash. So I'll see you in the next lesson.